Well, I got a rather interesting report I want to share with you guys today. A warning, if you will, from Julian Assange, who was in some kind of confinement and detention for about 14 years, released a little over a year ago. Well, I want to bring it up in light of everything that's going on because there is still an attack on journalists and media today, unlike we've ever seen before. A lot of the mainstream media, although they claim Project Mockingbird isn't happening, the mainstream media is hiring former CIA officials and FBI officials and intelligence community officials left and right. And I believe wholeheartedly that they are taken over by the IC and still are. And journalists are at risk under both Republican and Democrat administrations. So this is a warning that I think needs to be heeded, and I'm just going to hearken you to listen to the entire video. But as a quick reminder, please make sure you're still subscribed to that channel and hit that like button. But let's start here with this. And this was published by WikiLeaks on June 26th, so a little over a month ago. And this is the moment in this video where Julian Assange sets foot in Australia after 14 years of detention. So again, that was on June 26th. He's taller than I had expected him to be, but there he is back after 14 years of detention. Now, to kind of give you a little history briefly, because I don't want to reiterate everything that happened before I get into some of the warning, from Julian Assange. He was first charged in December 2010 when Swedish prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for him based on some kind of sex allegation. It just kind of went from there. And then in 2012, there was rather intense investigation by the United States in 2012. And that, by the way, was under Barack Obama. They started investigating him here in the U.S. after the stuff happened in 2010. Around 2012, under Barack Obama, they really went intently about seeking information. And then in 2019, as you see here, on this, he was arrested at the Ecuador embassy in London after his asylum was revoked. The U.S. authorities unsealed an indictment charging Assange with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. And that was in 2019, unfortunately, under Donald J. Trump. But remember, the intelligence community was still highly involved, I believe, with Barack Obama. And it started under Barack. And unfortunately, this all happened under Donald J. Trump as well. But there is a warning that must be heeded. But before I share that, just a quick break from my sponsor. Well, the American healthcare system is unfortunately broken, and Big Pharma charges an arm and a leg for their products. Not only that, but insurance companies are focused on actually growing healthcare spending. That's why I have put such an importance on, well, taking care of myself the natural way. And one of the most overlooked factors is improving your blood flow. That means more oxygen and nutrients to your brain, to your muscles, and even your heart. And this is why I personally use Blood Flow 7 with Juvenon. With just one dose a day, it has personally helped me improve my stamina, my energy, and even my heart health. And by the way, I would not share it with you if it did not work for me. All you have to do is go to the website bloodflow7.com/Lisa. You can see the link on the screen here. That's bloodflow7.com/Lisa, and check it out today and claim your risk-free bottle now. In fact, if you want more information on it, you can click that more button on your cell phone or click the link in the description box below. So let's get into, now that Julian Assange has been free for about a little over a year, what is going on and what has come of it, and what is the warning that we should heed? We'll take a look at computerweekly.com. 1 year since being freed, Julian Assange still a victim of state secrecy. If the State Department's arguments prevail in a Freedom of Information Act litigation, the truth about the United States' actions against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks journalists will never be known. That's happening right now, and they're trying to get the information via Freedom of Information requests from multiple countries, by the way, that include the United States of America. And if they are unsuccessful, we may never know the story. And here's why, right? Let's start here. It's 1 year since WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange became a free man again. And this was published June 25th, 2024, so just a month ago. When Julian Assange addressed the Council of Europe last October, he was unable to speak about the years he spent incarcerated in the UK, facing allegations of Espionage Act violations and computer intrusion. And this is what he said, and this is a chilling statement, and it's a warning to everyone. This is from Julian Assange. Quote, "I am not yet fully equipped to speak about what I have endured, the relentless struggle to stay alive, both physically and mentally," he said. "Nor can I speak yet about the deaths by hanging, murder, and medical neglect of my fellow prisoners." Those are very powerful words by Julian Assange, which he left with us back then, and speak ever more boldly today when he's out there saying, I can't talk about all the crap that they did to me, because of this thing, this charge, these acts that I'm having to fight with. And hey, people were murdered, people were neglected, and people were hung who were my fellow prisoners. Did it have anything to do with the fact that he was a journalist? Maybe he shared information with them. Well, we will never know. Right? Maybe they were trying to silence people around him. Maybe they weren't. But what we do know is that because Julian Assange dared to be an actual journalist, he had to endure hell. And the warning is what happened to him is not exempt from happening to other people. While he's got the freedom, if you will, today, he was confined for over 14 years. We're talking about a journalist who was just doing journalism, right? And that's the thing. And that's what he endured. But he goes on to talk about this. He says the arbitrary detention he endured for almost a decade, the smear campaign against him in WikiLeaks, CIA plans to kill or kidnap him revealed by protected witnesses. Yes, you read that right. The Espionage Act charges, the risk of spending his life entombed in U.S. Supermax prison, the 5 years and 2 months spent in Britain's toughest prison, Belmarsh, and the grave decline of his health. In May 2019, 52-year-old Assange was publicly charged by the U.S. Department of Justice. That's in 2019, again, under Trump, with 17 counts under the U.S. Espionage Act of 1917 and 1 count under the U.S. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act over WikiLeaks' 2010 publication of documents leaked by U.S. Army whistleblower Chelsea Manning. So that kind of gives you an overall what happened. But the deal is, again, I want to reiterate, I understand this happened under Trump, but you have to remember there was still deep state highly involved. And I believe they were highly involved at the time of that. And I really wish that Donald Trump would have, exonerated or dropped the charges against Julian Assange. I was pushing it back before he got out of office the first time. And unfortunately, that did not happen at the time. But either way, we are dealing with something different. Multiple countries, including the U.S., are refusing these Freedom of Information Act requests surrounding Julian Assange. The reason they're claiming, well, I'm guessing highly classified, who knows? But here's that, and this is on that same article. The U.S. refuses to release key Assange memos, emails, and cables. The U.S. authorities are trying to keep cables, memos, and emails on Assange and WikiLeaks classified, even though they date back 15 years and are in disputable public interest. They reveal unprecedented intelligence, law enforcement, and diplomatic operations conducted by the U.S. government and its allies against Assange and WikiLeaks between 2010 and 2012. That was under Barack Obama. And that's the key there. And I think that was, who was really behind a lot of this. But when WikiLeaks was publishing its most important revelations, the collateral murder video, the Afghan-Iraq war logs, the U.S. diplomatic cables, and the Guantanamo files. The documents detail how Assange and WikiLeaks journalists were targeted by the United States and alleged intelligence services, including various agencies that tracked their movement, and what intelligence was shared with foreign officials. So they were tracking and monitoring the movements of journalists because they want to know what they're going to drop and say. Mark my words, that is still happening today. Now, they have overtaken the mainstream media, right? In my opinion, we've got many CIA and FBI and IC agents in the mainstream media. Call it Project Mockingbird never ended or whatever, even though they claim it ended. I don't believe it necessarily did, but they control that. What they don't control are the likes of like Julian Assange. Say Alex, say Dan Bongino, say Joe Rogan, say Lisa Haven, Justice Knight. They don't control any of that. And therein lies their problem. If, it goes on though, if revealed, these cables and memos and emails would provide factual information, including what happens when a media organization runs up against the full force of the state for its journalistic work in exposing large state criminality. And Julian Assange is a perfect example of what happens to thou shalt not do what you just did. And he ran up against the full state authority. The document the U.S. authorities are refusing to release lies at the center of a legal battle based on the Freedom of Information Request Act in the U.S. The author of this article, or the Freedom of Information Act of Iowa, the article of this article has sought to obtain this document from the State Department since 2018. They have been asking since 2018. The U.S. litigation is part of a larger FOIA battle in 4 jurisdictions, including Britain, Sweden, and Australia, aimed at unearthing the truth about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And for decades, they have denied the request. And at least Britain and Sweden have actually destroyed material pertaining to it. I wonder if they destroyed information here in the U.S. as well. But bottom line of this, if the State Department's arguments prevail, in the U.S., the Freedom of Information Act litigation, the truth about Julian Assange's persecution and the WikiLeaks journalists will never, ever see the light of day. And I'm afraid if this doesn't happen now under the Trump administration, I do not think it ever will. And that's a warning, right, to Americans. Like, we're supposed to be able to have the ability to get the answers to the things that we need to find out why something happened. Not push everything under the rug and hide it. I don't care what administration you're under. We can't even know the real truth about what happened to this journalist 15 some odd years ago. It's like JFK, MLK, Epstein all over again, right? And in conclusion, I want to leave you with 2 things. This right here was published on their WikiLeaks X page by Gabriel Shipton, right? He launched an information rights project. And here's what he says, and I think this is an amazing quote. Freedom of expression does not defend itself. It's not automatic. It erodes in increments. Each time someone stays silent, each time government overreach and no one objects, each time a publisher, journalist, or source is punished, and the public looks away. In Julian Assange's case, we saw just how close to the edge things had come. And we're not backing away from that We're accelerating towards it. And that's so true. And that was the point of this video. It's not time to turn away and look a blind eye. We've got a good man in charge right now. We've got some good things happening in the United States of America. Now is to start taking a stand with the freedom of press. And I'm not talking about the mainstream media controlled press. I'm talking about the alternative media, the new media who is out there doing the job that the mainstream media was supposed to do and is not doing. And thank God there are some of us out there. And by the way, this movie is up and coming. This was published 2025, but it's this new movie. I guess it's a documentary. It's called The $6 Billion Man, a documentary about the Julian Assange saga. So that's up and coming at some point in time in the future. So interested in seeing that nonetheless. But anyway, wanted to share it. It's one of our, amendment rights to have a free press. And I think we need to make sure that we do before Donald Trump gets out of office. And hopefully they release some of that information to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. But with all of that, as a quick reminder, get to restrictedrepublic.com. Check it out today. Please go there, sign up. There's some big reports on there that are exclusive to that platform. You can see some of the video names here. Not all, we post 6 videos, five to 6 videos exclusive to that platform every single week that are just for the Restricted Republic audience. All our videos are on there as well, by the way, without any commercials. So that's kind of a good news. But check it out at restrictedrepublic.com and use the coupon code Lisa and the number 5 to get it for $5 per month. Anyhow, with all of that, I love you guys so much. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.